Hello, everyone, and welcome to our final workshop, Global Indigenous Perspectives in Entrepreneurship, Cultivating Reconciliation and Worldviews. The workshop is presented by Kwantlen Polytechnic University. Thank you, KPU, for all your support.
Before we get started, we wanted to take this moment to acknowledge all the reflections that we've been receiving from all around the world via the GELP platform. It is so amazing to see how delegates are applying their learnings from the summit to their global and regional contexts. Remember to complete your pre- and post-summit survey reflections to earn your GELP digital badge and to enter your chance to win a tuition scholarship. More information related to the global awards will be released at the closing ceremony.
It gives us a great pleasure to welcome our next moderator, Charlene Beerhead.
Charlene is the Vice President of Learning and Reconciliation at the Royal Canadian Geographic Society and a member of the Indigenous Education Advisory Circle for the National Film Board. Previously, Charlene served as the Education Coordinator for the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada, Education Coordinator for the National Inquiry into Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls, Education Advisor for the Canadian Geographic Indigenous People Atlas of Canada, and member of the Canadian Museum for Human Rights Indigenous Education Working Group.
Charlene also served as the first education lead for both the National Centre of Truth and Reconciliation at the University of Manitoba and the Indian Residential School History and Dialogue Centre at the University of British Columbia. Over to you, Charlene.
Thank you for the kind introduction, Joel and Harmeen. I'm very excited to be here. I'm Charlene Beerhead, and I'm so happy to welcome everyone from all over the world to this 2024 Global Virtual Summit on Career and Skill Development presented by GELP. This is workshop 3, so you found yourself to the end of the summit. I'm going to say when you hear from this amazing panel that they saved the best for last. It's going to be fantastic. I'm really looking forward to it. So this is workshop number 3, Global Indigenous Perspectives in Entrepreneurship, Cultivating Reconciliation and Worldviews. So as I said, my name's Charlene Beerhead. I'm actually joining you from Treaty 6 territory here in what is commonly now referred to as Central Alberta in Canada. And I'm super excited to be joined by these 3 panelists. So you'll hear from them soon, but we've got Lauren joining us from Mi'kma'ki, Shaul is joining us from Aotearoa, New Zealand, and of course, Crystal is joining us from Coast Salish territory, where she lives and learns and works as well. So I'm very excited that this workshop will bring together these incredible entrepreneurs and leaders in their communities, providing a platform to explore the unique challenges and opportunities faced by Indigenous peoples in entrepreneurship. We'll discuss Indigenous approaches to building sustainable businesses, leadership, and economic empowerment while learning how Indigenous entrepreneurs create positive change while honoring their own cultural heritage. The session will be followed by an opportunity for delegates to ask questions, so please submit your questions on the GELP platform. So here we go. Here's the great part. We get to hear from all the delegates. So I'm going to ask each of you to share a little bit about yourselves. I'm just going to let the delegates know that are joining us from all over the world that we could be here for 3 days to hear all the incredible things that our panelists have to offer. But they're going to give you each a little bit of sort of a teaser of 2 or 3 minutes or more about the highlights of who they are in their families and communities and nations. So, Lauren, would you like to start?
Sure. So my name's Lauren Julian. I'm from the Mi'kmaq Nation. I live in Millbrook First Nation, which is near Truro, Nova Scotia. And my main the main thing I do is I do artwork. I paint. I work mostly with acrylic on canvas, but I also do a few other things on top of that, as far as doing some retail things, and also commissions, and I've been doing a lot of murals the last few years. And And I just recently, well, a couple of years ago, I received through Nova Scotia Indigenous Tourism Indigenous Artist of the Year award, which I was quite proud of and pleased. That's my first official award, invested in my artwork. And so, yeah, I've done a lot of those things and doing a lot of things as far as different gatherings, Christmas fairs, markets, powwows. And yeah, so that's what I've been doing.
Awesome. Thank you. And congratulations on the award. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Shala, over to you.
Kia ora, ko Charlotte Chase toku ingoa, ko Manaia te maunga, ko whangarei te ringo parawa, ko rangiora te whare tūpuna, ko patuhara keke te hapu, ko Ngāti Wai te iwi, me Ngāti Whātua, ki te taha o tō pāpā, Ngāti Hine, te iwi, kia ora te whānau. Kia ora, my name is Charlotte Chase. I'm from a small place up north in Aotearoa, New Zealand, known as Takahiwai. I'm of the Ngāti Wai tribe. Our ancestral lands border the eastern coast of the northern end of New Zealand. I am what you would call a serial entrepreneur. I've been self-employed for the better half of 20 years in all sorts of different types of businesses. I'm a bit of a tutu when it comes to things like that, meaning I like to dabble, I like to play, I like to learn. I'm self-taught. I'm self-taught in most of my sort of business. However, I see the value in upskilling, learning. I like to learn from our people. I like to lead in a conscious way that honors our tupuna, our ancestors. I'm passionate about Māori in business. I'm passionate about wahine, women in business. I have 2 children and a husband, and I'm also a business coach. I help people into business. I support them. I'm very proud of my culture, and I'm very proud of my ancestry. And I look forward to today sharing our knowledge with you. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Shala. Thank you so much. Crystal, let's hear about you.
Thank you, Auntie Shar. Hosqual Tanoia, Crystal Queensna, Crystal Quean Anantme, Helquean Quashamain, Bruce Ogilvy, Elaine Moody, foster parents, Quinas Touch, Elizabeth Moody, Esteban Marcia, Quinas Touch, biological parents, Tinachin Thla, Walanti Ochmel, Alanas Chin Squalin, Eos Chin Soquito, Hotsqual, Tana, Migma, Ochmel, Nachem, Ochmel, Stalmoch. So I'm Chris Lewis. I come from the Squamish Nation. I live by the sayings, be the change you want to see, lead by example, and take action. The Squamish Nation comes from the Vancouver, BC area, so I'm humble and grateful to share that region with the other 2 surrounding nations, Tsleil-Waututh and Musqueam. And yeah, just honoring my ancestors today and honoring Omar and Shar and our panel for allowing me to be here, and recognizing them on the beautiful ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq people right now in Nova Scotia, actually, for the Indigenous Connections Summit at the moment. However, yeah, I'm the BCFN Youth Representative, just recently elected, formerly worked in BC provincial government, and also helped create the new Indigenous internship stream on Parliament Hill for the Indigenous Youth Internship Stream, parliamentary internship through GreenPAC, also known as Environmental Leadership Canada as of now. A lot of other things which I'm happy to share through our panel. But yeah, I'll kindly pass it on. Thank you.
Geez, thank you. So Crystal, I'm
Oh,
actually
excuse me for a minute. I just wanted to say, Jalasi, welcome, and welcome to Mi'kmaq territory.
thank you. That's so awesome, Lauren.
Yeah.
So these two incredible people meeting here from opposite coasts in what we now call Canada. So kind to welcome Crystal to your territory. You probably could throw a rock and hit each other where you are right now, even though you come from so much further apart.
Yeah.
So Crystal, I'm going to come back to you and ask you, so what brought you to this pathway of entrepreneurship?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, again, recognizing that all our ancestors have played a pivotal role in, our survival and, allowing us to be here today, fighting for, Indigenous rights and title and so much more. And for that, I'm very honored to continue on the work to just help pave the way forward as a youth leader. And I'm a strong believer that, again, you can't wait for others to make changes for you. You yourself have to be a change maker, and just applying that value has really led me to where I am today, but also recognizing, it's the people who invested in me over the years as well. And, all those that have provided me with these opportunities and believed in me and my vision and my journey. And, I'm so grateful to all of them who have, allowed me to get to where I am today, including my community, essentially. And I've always believed in giving back into the community and really pondered, how I could do that in a good way and, honoring our future generations as well. Furthermore, as someone that takes action, and jumps in head first a lot of the time, and who's spent a lot of time learning and learning and growing along the way and challenging myself, I developed a passion to learn, which essentially led me into entrepreneurship. Although I'm new to the field personally, after creating projects with my community, focusing on sustainability, wellness, and food sovereignty, and creating a sustainable development goal solution at CAP 2030 with change makers from across the world. Realizing that along the way and working in sales, when I first started out, that these skills can be applied to anything. And one thing that I found so useful when I worked in sales was that you're always looking for your yes, and sure, you're going to overcome the challenges and have to face objections and overcome those, but keep looking for your yes, because someone's going to invest in you. Someone's going to say yes and help you get to where you are today. And that's something I really hold dearly to my heart. And I think working in sales formally gave me kind of I think a thick skin in a way, and knowing how to face those challenges face on. And so after going to the United Nations, and I'm just going to summarize it here, sum it up real fast, and working on a project with my partner actually on anti-human trafficking prevention training, which is still in the works. We realized that we don't have any Indigenous organizations or anti-human trafficking organizations actually coming to our communities in BC that I know of, and providing us this anti-human trafficking prevention training. And so my partner and I went to the United Nations and stated this in my statement to the UN and global leaders from around the world, and posed this question to the youth, and asked how many of them had someone come to their community to provide this training. No one raised their hand. Then in the global plenary session, only one person raised their hand in the entire room, emphasizing the need to provide this training. So my partner decided to take it in her own hands to actually take action and start her own consulting agency that addresses this.
Thank you. What a journey. Lauren, what brought you to entrepreneurship?
I like to, I know different times over the years I've tried, I guess tried many different things to make a buck. And I know as a youth, I would do things like deliver newspaper. I used to deliver at one time delivering two newspapers, the Chronicle Herald early in the morning before school. And then after school, I would deliver the local newspaper. And anyway, so I did that for a little while, and then just doing other little odd jobs as a teenager, and but I always had, I guess I've always had a love for the arts. I know I started drawing, sketching, painting as a child, and but at some point along the way, I talked myself out of it and said, "No, there's no there's no future in art for you." That's what I told myself as a young person, and tried many different things throughout my life, throughout my career, doing stuff from uh, I worked as a carpenter, worked as a tailor. I worked in the federal, Atlantic federal institutions. I did some tribal police training years ago in Mission, BC, and worked with the band, and also worked in Shubenacadie at the Eagle's Nest Recovery House. So I worked in counseling field, in treatment, and in the field, and but I always kept going back to my artwork too, and I think it's probably because artwork to me has been my basically my therapy. It's and I did struggle at times in the past, especially as a youth, even before I was a teenager, got introduced to alcohol and drugs, and so I went down I guess a bad road at the time, and so it's been a journey. It's been a long journey. It's been a healing journey for me, and it's only been, I don't know how long it's been now, roughly 10 years or more, that I've been basically a full-time artist, but I've only been basically registered as a business probably for the last 2 or 3 years. And but it's been quite a journey, quite a learning journey. Like, I have some of the basic knowledge around debits and credits and balances and all that sort of thing, but I have no, and even my some of my um, anyway, I find it a little bit interesting because I grew up mostly with my single mom. We lived with my grandparents till I was a teenager. So a lot of times my grandparents kind of took over when it came to helping raise me. But both my grandparents were fluent in the Mi'kmaq language. And I know my grandmother told me years later when I was a teenager, she said, I wish I spoke Mi'kmaq to you. But she said, I thought you would be better off when you start a school that knowing the language or knowing English. And so anyway, it's interesting now you see the change. So I am trying to learn more about the language. I've been taking some courses and But the beautiful thing about it too, there's still a few isolated communities, especially in Cape Breton, like around Eskasoni and Wagaba and Wagmacook and even Membertou near Sydney. And there's another community, it's called Chapel Island, and then there's another community called Mulligawatch. And some of these communities are quite isolated, and at the same time, the language is quite strong as well. And that just happened recently, this past year or two. The province of Nova Scotia finally made the Mi'kmaq language its official first language. So, and I know some of the schools, like in Eskasoni, are it's all enforced, or it's part of the school system within those different schools. So
Interesting.
anyway, I'm getting a little off there.
Thank you, Lauren.
Yes, you're welcome.
So Shala, you talked about always knowing that everything was possible and sort of dabbling and playing and things. So what brought you to this whole pathway and kept you on this pathway all this time?
Yeah, thank you, Charlene. Really interesting how I sort of landed into being self-employed and entrepreneurship. I was almost forced into it. At the time, I was working a really good job, actually. I enjoyed my job in customer service. And I was working in Australia at the time. And I remember I had got pregnant with my first child, and I had maternity leave and everything was fine. Anyway, I had the child, and then I decided I don't think I want to go back to work. So I thought, okay, what options do I have? So I used my maternity leave, and then I actually gave in notice to my employer. I said, look, I'm going to be a full-time mum. So it was an awesome time, beautiful time spent with my child, but I sort of started getting a little bit bored. I sort of wanted to, I guess, challenge my brain a little, challenge my what I wanted to do as a career path. So I knew at that point I didn't want to go back into a 9-to-5 employed job. Even though it was secure, even though it paid the bills, I'm sort of a risk taker. So I thought, no, there's something I can do. There's something out there for me, but what is it? And that was actually the hardest part, was sort of thinking, what am I good at? What do I enjoy? What am I passionate about? Because all these things matter when you're starting out in business, because if you're not passionate about it, or if you don't enjoy it, it's not going to last. So at the time, of course, newborn baby, I enjoyed taking photos, because I'd take a million photos of my beautiful girl, baby girl, and I was actually good at it, and I had a really good camera. And so some friends of mine and some of my family said, oh, why don't you do photography? So I thought, yeah, that's a great idea. But I'm like, what do you do? Do you go to school? Do you go to university? How do you learn to be a photographer? So at the time, sort of YouTube was just kicking off then. This is the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s. YouTube was just kicking off. So I delved into YouTube and taught myself how to be a photographer, believe it or not. And then I thought, okay, I now know the mechanics of photography. How do I do the editing? Because editing sort of was all coming into play. This is like Photoshop. This is like, editing your photographs, making them brighter, better, sharper. And I thought, this is difficult. Like, you have to use a computer to do this. You need special programs. I didn't have those programs. Those programs cost money. And so I learned all of this on YouTube, believe it or not. And I was self-taught. So I started sort of doing free photo shoots for friends and family, and I got really good at it. And then before too long, people were wanting to pay for my services. And then it just got better and better. And I was a photographer for around 10 years. So that gave me flexibility. It gave me the ability to choose my own hours, choose my own income, choose the people that I worked with, my clientele. It was actually a really good introductory skill into business because it taught me so much. It taught me how to deal with people. It taught me how to run, do my bookwork so that I could take care of my money. It taught me how to learn and upskill myself. So I think, that was the starting point into many, many business ventures. And it was a really good financial solution for me at the time, being a young mother.
Awesome. That sounds exciting. Sounds really exciting.
Yeah.
So Lauren, what would you say are the biggest challenges? Like I know there's all sorts of interesting, exciting challenges, but what would you say is the biggest challenge for you in being an Indigenous entrepreneur?
Uh, well, I think the biggest challenge is yourself. I mean, a lot of times, I think we can do many amazing things, but like, for example, I remember as a young person, and this was probably my early 20s, I did my first art show. I just had uh, two or three pieces in a show, and I had some great reviews. I was in the front page of the newspaper, this sort of thing, and it actually scared me.
Mm.
And I thought, and then I was thinking, I said, anyway, I don't want to, this is my quote. It's not Spider-Man's quote, but basically someone told me that before. But um, with success comes more responsibility, and I've always believed that. And at the time, I was still, struggling with my addictions as well. So I think if I had too much success, maybe early in the beginning, probably wouldn't have been a healthy or good thing for me in the long run. I think I had to basically grow up. I had to deal with some of my addictions and I guess, my demons as well. So I had to learn to heal myself and heal those things, those painful those painful memories of different hurts and pains and most of it all goes back to your childhood. I was, stuff like, I grew up without a father, never known my father, those sort of things. And even as a grown man, sometimes those things play on my mind even today. And then you go through those things. So, I'm not good enough. Is there something wrong with me? Those sort of things.
Mm.
One of the pet therapy puppies are back.
Okay. Well, good timing. Good timing.
Yeah, good timing. Yeah. So it's been so I think that's the biggest part, just getting through your own stuff, dealing with your own stuff. And because I think being in business is quite rewarding, but at the same time, it's a lot of work.
Mm.
Like for example, I used to hear that all the time. Well, you got to put your time in, you got to do the work. And so I would do so many different random events, like different markets, Christmas markets, powwows. Sometimes, barely making enough to pay for your gas, or you just break even, you know what I mean, to cover your expenses. But at the same time, like I said, for example, when I did those sticks last year, that was like I've been waiting for a long time. I just been really busy, and I think that was the other thing as far as trying to be successful. I think even if you don't see it right away or feel it, I just kept producing work. I just kept working and producing work, and now I can't hang on to my work.
Mm.
It's and I'm dealing with other companies, like for example, I deal with Canada Art Prints out of Vancouver, and then I get a percentage of a lot of the stuff they moved. They've been in business for over 50 years. They're in over 40 countries. So it's nice to receive a royalty check in the mail every now and then. They're not real big checks, but they're still nice to get. And so I think I I often feel I've done a lot of different things throughout my life and career, had different careers, but I was finally talking to somebody a few years ago, 3 or 4 years ago now, and I just finished doing a project for Ecology Action Center. It was part of their 50th anniversary, and they wanted to basically, I think they hired close to 50 different artists, from different artists to performing artists and so on. And they had different things going on throughout the province of Nova Scotia. But one of the things I did was I had done a mural during this event, and which is located in Halifax on a 2-story house. And so yeah, so it's been a journey. It's and one of the things I said was I'm finally doing what I've always was meant to do. Like I've worked with children in schools, to university students, to elders, and so on. And working in like schools to universities, and it just opened up so many doors. And plus I'm doing work now for the municipalities, for the provincial government, the federal government, and
Awesome.
I didn't even realize all these things existed. So it's interesting to experience some of these things. And
Okay, that's awesome.
anyway, I'm going to cut myself off.
Okay, thanks.
That's some of this stuff.
Awesome. Thank you, Lord.
Yeah, thanks.
So one of the next questions is going to be about benefits, but I feel like you kind of brought all that together. So I'm going to ask Shala if you could talk about, what are some of the biggest challenges you faced as an Indigenous entrepreneur, but then also what are some of the greatest benefits?
Yeah, sure. Challenges in being an entrepreneur itself, there's so many. But when you add the diversity of being Indigenous in business, it even makes it that more difficult. So just to give you a few examples of that, I had mentioned earlier that I was living in Australia. I had worked a few different businesses. After a photographer, I owned a cafe, we had a transport and logistics business, a few other things before we moved back to New Zealand. And when we did move back to New Zealand, I thought it was going to be easy. I thought, yep, we'll start a business, we'll do a few things here and there. And I got back home, I got back to Aotearoa, and believe it or not, my biggest criticizers or biggest people that were ready to cut me down were my own people. Now, in my head, I thought, why is this happening? Why are my own family, my own culture, why are they criticizing me, saying it will never work, that will never happen, you could never do that in New Zealand, you won't make money doing this, or you won't make money doing that? I had to sit in silence and think about these things. And what it is was, at the time, there weren't many Māori businesses at the time. I mean, there were a few, but not as many as there are today. And the reason behind that is because there is so much self-doubt. And when I talk about self-doubt, it's when people think it is the unachievable. They put it on a pedestal and they think, I could never be that person. I could never own my own business. I could never be a successful entrepreneur. I could never have a startup. They place it too high. So that's what I experienced in my early days when I moved back to Aotearoa, is that people thought it was just out of reach. Owning your own business was too hard. No way would people even dare to start their own business, because first of all, you're not guaranteed a paycheck every week. You're not, you're not guaranteed a 9 to 5 set hours. It's just the unknown. And people, our people, my family, they didn't understand that. They thought, why are you leaving Australia, coming to New Zealand, and then just starting fresh, starting new? That's so scary. Just get a job. It's easier. And then I said to myself, no, actually, I've never wanted to be employed that way. I'll start a business. So, of course I did. And then people sort of saw me doing what I was doing, and then it gave them confidence. And they thought, look, Charlotte's doing it. Maybe we can do it. And then I enrolled people here, there, everywhere, all my whānau, people, cousins, community, and help them into their businesses as well. So it's about self-empowerment. It's about acknowledging that unachievable is actually achievable. And then when we look to things like what benefits come out of choosing to be an entrepreneur or choosing to be self-employed, we look at things like, as I mentioned earlier, flexibility. We can call the shots. We can say, actually, I don't feel like working today, so I'm not going to work. I'm going to go to the beach. You can do things like that as an entrepreneur, because you choose your own hours, you choose your own way of working, you choose your location of working. You're not stuck in an office, you're not stuck inside a building. You can work wherever you want. You can work from home, you can be with your children. You can, like, every year our family goes camping for sort of 3 months of the year on our ancestral lands on the beach. It's a beautiful place called Pariparea. And I get to go and enjoy my time there and not have to worry about going to work or taking time off work, because I take my laptop and then I'm good to go. So it's really about having the freedom to do what you want when you want to do it. You're your own boss. You call the shots. You're not dictated to by anyone else other than yourself. So I think that's probably, for me, one of the biggest benefits. Enjoy your freedom as an entrepreneur.
That's awesome. Love it.
Yeah.
Crystal, challenges and benefits?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Chala and Lauren. Wow, such wonderful words of wisdom and insight. So thank you both for sharing your experience. And if anything, I feel like I'm preaching to the choir here, as someone that's just newly starting out into entrepreneurship. And I'm sure, I can learn so much more from people in the audience here today as well. So, but yeah, kind of in relation to that, and kind of echoing from what Lauren and Chella had said, I absolutely agree with the challenges that you both had mentioned. And furthermore, sorry, just need a moment here to gather my thoughts, but for myself, I've never really taken a traditional path of learning. Unfortunately, the traditional education system is not necessarily for me, but, not to say that's the same path that everyone should take. I think, we're all free to do take whatever path we'd like. So I never actually gone to get like a bachelor's degree. I've just done mostly like a award or like certificates throughout like the years since I graduated from high school. And just like learning different skills along the way from different programs, from like film and television to, going to the Cody Institute, which I'll mention a little bit more here, to taking the best program. And so kind of going back to what I was saying, like you can like apply skills that you learn from like different areas into other areas, especially in business, it's really helpful. And that's all I've ever done was, really like take the time to learn new skills and, work towards capacity building. So I can, invest within my own community, so I can give back that knowledge and wisdom to my community as well. And I think we're all collectively working towards capacity building. And, it's great to see that the status quo, the paradigm is shifting, that we have so many like, Indigenous peoples going on to be doctors and lawyers, and like really creating that kind of capacity within our own Indigenous communities. And so like, I encourage everyone, like, to be open-minded. And I think, a challenge that could be really hard for a lot of people, even for myself, is like, overcoming fear of uncertainty, the unknown, not knowing what lays ahead. Me as like a new starting out entrepreneur, I think what could also be challenging too, and after attending like, it's called the Aboriginal BEST program, so Business Entrepreneurship Success Training Program, although I'll call it the Indigenous BEST program. Sometimes like applying that knowledge that you learn from a book into hands-on, like hands-on like action could be really challenging. But also having like mentorship, like there's not like, I'm sure sometimes asking for help and like knowing who to go to ask for like, to invest in you and your company, and to invest in your vision, to invest in like, trying to share like, what that vision is. Not everyone will grasp that. And, I've faced that myself in some programs where, I shared an idea and they didn't necessarily see eye to eye with it, but, it work towards self-growth and work towards, like invest in my community and sharing that knowledge. Excuse me. And with that being said, like that's something I'd really like to see is more Indigenous mentors, because like when you start out, like when you create a business, when you first start out, a lot of the time you're gonna have to like seek out people to, help you start your business, or who can like, invest time. If you can't do like a lot of the skills, like let's say accounting, like you can go out to someone that does know accounting and who has time to volunteer. And so with that being said, another challenge is inflation. And like Lauren had said, time, essentially. Nowadays, like, after COVID, I'm sure just not just in Canada, sorry, probably across the world, it's very expensive. It's very expensive to like not have like a business, like up and running and, putting money back into your pocket. It takes time to go and learn these skills for yourself so you can apply it. And, like for me, I wasn't, learning was a skill I had developed over time. And so, utilizing that, going out and learning those skills so you can invest it back into your own business is very, very helpful. And just being open-minded, and what's helped me be open-minded is reading, playing instruments, and I noticed that like instantly opened my mind for me personally over the years. And, learning from the different perspectives, and of course, like, other people's challenges, successes, failures, etc., and just applying all this knowledge and, not being afraid to ask for help again. But yeah, I'll cut it off there and I'll add on if I think of anything else. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Crystal. So, we hear a lot, and I think when people think about entrepreneurship, they think about making money, being able to make a good living, and that's so important. But we also have heard from all of you, and it's so important to think about that cultural integrity and your values from your own nations and tribes and communities and families. So I'm going to start with you, Shala, with the question, how do you balance being able to make money, create positive change, and maintain cultural integrity all at the same time?
This question actually really resonates with me, Charlene. The reason being is that two of those things that you mentioned are very, very important to me. So integrity being one, cultural integrity, and then another thing being community. So in Te Ao Māori, our worldview, how we see things, we have whānau, hapu, and iwi. So this is what we call an interconnected community. So whānau being your immediate family or your close family, hapu being your extended family, and iwi being your tribe. So we see this as our community. Now, to me, that's really important. We always put it at the forefront of our thoughts, minds, actions. Everything we do is for our community. Everything we do is for our family, our whānau. So that's really, really important to me. The second thing, cultural integrity. So when we think about cultural integrity, for me, it's about being tika and pono. So those are also things that we believe in, and being tika and pono is walking in your truth. So knowing, you think you mentioned it, Charlene, about your values. So knowing and standing true to your values, standing true to what is your mission, what do you want to achieve, and then your vision. So as a business owner, those are three important things that all business owners, all entrepreneurs should know about. And that's your mission, vision, and values, because that sets a precedence for what you need to stay true to when you conduct business. So to me, those are really important. And to everyone will have all different values and what you see and perceive to be your own values. But I think as long as you are sticking to your values and that you don't waver, you don't sort of come too far away from those values, I think you're in good stead for how you want to conduct your business, how you want to set a precedence, how you want people to perceive you conducting your business. I remember some time ago, we are involved in a tourism company called Stay Native. And Stay Native helps bring people from all over the world, and you experience culture in that community with those people on what they would do on a day-to-day basis. It's things like collecting seafood, riding horses, doing things in our community that we do as a people, but maybe necessarily other people don't get to do on an everyday basis. So it's bringing people in, showing them manaakitanga, showing them hospitality, true hospitality, welcoming them into your home. So I remember I had been dealing with a tour group operator, and she said, look, we want to go here and we want to go there. And in my heart, I knew those places didn't align with what Stay Native was about. And I really had to think hard, because I was like, oh, this is, she could say yes or no. She could take her business elsewhere if I said no. But then at the end of the day, I thought about those values. I thought about, actually, this is what we are. This is what we're about as an Indigenous tourism company. And I had to stay tika and pono to those things. So I actually told her, I said, I'm sorry, I can't take you to those places, because that's not what Stay Native offers. You're welcome to go to any other tourism company in New Zealand, and I'm sure that they will take you to those places. But that's not something we do. So, like, you will come across those situations in life that you're presented with, where you have to make that choice, where you have to sacrifice the money that you could potentially get for whatever it may be, because you want to stick true to those values. So that's really, really important to me. And I think that as long as you are sort of walking your walk and talking your talk, and stay strong and hold to your mission, your values and your vision, that you'll be an exemplary leader in your line of business.
Fantastic advice. Thank you so much, Shala. I've got the little signal that we are coming close to the end of time, so I need to take audience questions. So, Lauren, maybe I'll pose this one to you, and then I'll pose an audience question to Crystal, and then that will be the time we have. So here's an audience question, Lauren. How can non-Indigenous people respectfully work with Indigenous entrepreneurs to support and collaborate with their business and entrepreneurial aspirations? That is a long question.
Yeah, just well, one way to support Aboriginal business is buy our stuff, but buy our artwork, invest. But at the same time, like I was thinking of that too when we're going through these last questions, and I know about the integrity part of it. Like, for example, I was approached a couple of years ago by an oil company to do some work for them, and I said, no, I don't think I'd want to do any work for you because you're throwing my brothers and sisters and elders in jail out west. And so anyway, I wanted to mention that yeah, I didn't want to deal with these corporations if they're going to be hurting the planet or hurting my people. And the other thing I was thinking of was a lot of times we're always thinking about the next, not just our children, but the next 7 generations. So we're trying to look at long term. And then, but anyway, I just want to stop there, and I might get back to it, but I'll leave it at that for now.
Thank you, Lauren. And really, really important, right? Because there's no amount of money that's worth compromising our integrity. And
Yeah.
so it's really important. Thank you. So Crystal, the other audience question is, and it actually, I think it's perfect for you because you talked about just really being early on in being an entrepreneur. What advice would you offer to other young Indigenous people considering, or maybe not so young, Indigenous people considering entrepreneurial ventures?
Sorry, can you ask the question once more? Or say that question once more?
Yes. What advice would you give other Indigenous people who are considering potentially going into, entrepreneurial ventures?
Yeah. So also as like adding on to the last question, so one challenge is I faced is imposter syndrome, like great concise.
All right, Crystal, we can't hear
Things of the
Sorry, Crystal, we can't hear you. We're going to have to mute Mike, I think, until we get sorted. Sorry, everyone. This is I think we all know this is life in the virtual world now. We'll give it one more shot and see if it works. And if not, do you want to try to unmute one more time, Crystal? Not working. Okay. Well, Shala, I'm going to go to you. For last words, what advice would you give to Indigenous people thinking about going into entrepreneurial ventures?
Yeah, you must have tough skin. That's sort of my advice, is because it's not going to be easy. It's going to be really difficult, actually. You're going to have extreme highs and extreme lows. You're not going to make money for a period there. It's just the reality of business. You have to be prepared mentally to face what challenges come your way. And if you can, if you can overcome those, then the world is your oyster. What you can achieve is just like the sky's your limit. My second piece of advice would be to have really strong support people around you. we call them our po. And it could be your family, it could be your spouse, your partner, it could be your children, anyone who is there to support you, cheer you on to the end. Because you need someone to go through those highs and lows. You need someone to be there to sort of pick you up off the floor when you're crying because your business venture hadn't gone the way that it's supposed to have gone, or you've lost money in a deal, or something like that. And then at the same time, you want them there so celebrating your joy and your success when things go right. And things will go right. You just have to be prepared to take the highs and the lows as you go through them. But having that support group, that whānau, those friends, whoever it may be, colleagues, having them there with you along the way is going to make a really, really big difference to you succeeding in business and making those goals and smashing those goals that you want to achieve. Yeah.
Beautiful words to end with. We've come to the end of our time. Thank you, Shala. Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Crystal. And thank you to all of the delegates all around the world for joining the GALP Summit and for sharing some of your time with us. And we wish you all the very best in all your entrepreneurial and other adventures. Shnish Pinamat.
Thank you, Charlene, for moderating this panel. And thank you, panelists, for giving delegates around the world some great insights and perspectives around global Indigenous perspectives in entrepreneurship.
Before we head to our closing ceremonies, we wanted to share some final updates for all of the delegates tuning in globally. For delegates that are joining on the GALP platform, we ask you to refresh your screen as you move into the closing ceremony to get access to the post-summit reflection survey. You will need to complete this survey in order to win global awards, tuition scholarships. So once again, after the closing ceremony, please refresh your GALP Learning platform to complete your post-summit survey.
And after the closing ceremony, you will see the opportunity to apply for the Global Awards, where you will have a chance to win tuition scholarships of up to 2,500 Canadian dollars. More details to be shared shortly. In addition, as a reminder, you will have up to 7 days to revisit the content and submit your reflections. When you revisit the content after the live session, you will also be able to change the subtitle settings to your preferred choice of language. Thank you.
In concluding this session, we would like to leave you with 2 final reflections from students who have been sharing and tagging GALP on social media.
From Julia Delgado from Universidad LCI Monterrey, shared what Resilience Reimagined means to her. I think it is about redefining how I respond to challenges, uncertainties, and potential setbacks, especially in my professional life. My professional life is just starting, but I'm aware that difficulties will inevitably come, and I will have to deal with them in a way that not only makes sense, makes me better, but also makes me humble and open to learning. I believe it's not just about bouncing back from difficulties, but using these experiences as opportunities for growth. Thank you for sharing, Julia.
Also, thank you, Dorcas Gunga from Nairobi, Kenya, for your thoughts. She shares, Resilience Reimagined is a transformative and forward-thinking approach to understanding and building resilience in individuals and communities. This concept involves redefining traditional ideas of resilience by incorporating innovative strategies, modern technologies, and inclusive practices. The Global Summit has challenged me to redefine traditional ideas of resilience by incorporating innovative strategies, lifelong learning, and inclusive practices. Thank you to the Global Emerging Leadership Programs for providing a space for all of us young leaders to engage meaningful dialogue with global perspectives. Thank you, Dorcas, for sharing this wonderful post, and thank you to everyone who has been watching this conference.
As many of you know, we encourage you to revisit the content as it will be available for up to 7 days. The social media contest will close on June 17th, Pacific Daylight Time, and June 18th, India Standard Time. So we encourage you to continue sharing your learnings on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and be sure to tag Global Emerging Leadership Programs. We look forward to seeing you all shortly at our closing ceremony. It has been such a pleasure to be here with you all, and see you all there.